George. I'm from the Lanier County Advocate, and this is our second installation of our Tell Me a Story series. I have with me today retired teacher Emma Oxford, who has taught for 30 years, 9 of those years being in Lanier County. She taught at the Lakeland high school and elementary school. If you could just tell me a little bit about how school was when you were a child. Can you kind of go over that for me?
Okay, Angela, I'm going to expound on the Lanier County schools.
Okay.
When I was a student.
Okay.
My first school was St. Louis Elementary School,
okay,
and it's located on the grounds of the St. Louis Missionary Baptist Church on Highway 135. It was a little white building with 2 rooms, and there was a partition between those 2 rooms, and it housed students from 1st through 7th grade. And we had 2 teachers. One teacher taught 5th through 7th. The other teacher taught 1st through 4th.
Okay.
And the one that taught 5th through 7th, she was the principal. And in that school, we had no running water. We had no restrooms. We had outdoor toilets, one for the boys and one for the girls. We had no cafeteria. We had to bring our little brown bags to school. And at some point in the day, we would all go outside, eat our lunches, play for a while. We had no equipment to play with, so we made up our games. Like we played dodgeball, or we played hopscotch, or we played marbles, or jackstones, those kind of things. But our teachers were very dedicated. They taught us the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And we didn't have books like the children have today. The books that we had were sent down from the white school, used books that we had, and we were glad to get them, you know, just to say we had a book to read out of. And we had to take those books home every day. We had assignments to do out of those books, and you know, we enjoyed it. So our teachers were dedicated to us. They taught us, and we learned how to read, write, and do arithmetic. And I stayed there until I was in the 7th grade. And it was 5 of us in that class. And we left St. Louis, and we came to the school here in Lakeland. We got to Lakeland, we had a big school, we thought, you know. It was much bigger than the 2 rooms. So, but this school was no better than St. Louis, because we had no running water again, we had no indoor restrooms, we had no cafeteria, we had a little room that was a media center, but still we had teachers that was very dedicated, and they taught us, and we learned from those teachers. We had no equipment to play with on the playgrounds. Again, we had to, you know, play with what we had, what we made up. We had a basketball team at this school. I was on the team. Let me back up a minute. When we left St. Louis, there was no transportation for the children. So our first bus was a pickup truck.
A pickup truck?
A pickup truck. And that pickup truck had a canvas on the top of it. And on the back of it, it had chairs for the children to sit in. So we had about 4 black schools in the county, and Mr. Henry Woods was the bus driver, the truck driver, and he would go and he would pick up all of those 7th grade students that was leaving those schools and bring them to the Lakeland High and elementary school. First he would pick up the children at St. Louis, then he would go to Hopewell, which is about 5 miles away from St. Louis. He would pick us up and bring us to the school, put us off. Then he would go to Stockton, pick up the 7th graders at Stockton. The Jenkins Settlement, which is off of River Road. He would pick them up, bring them to the school, put them off, and then he would go to Silver Hill. There's a school out near Ray City. He would pick those kids up. And this is the bus ride. This is the bus that we had. Now, we were happy. We didn't have a big yellow bus, but we were happy to have this truck to ride on, because we had walked to school for 7 years in the cold and in the rain. But I think it was around my 9th or 10th grade, they consolidated all of the schools in the county and brought them to the big high school in Lakeland, which we call the barn, the big barn. But anyway, this is when we got a bus, a big yellow bus. It wasn't a new bus, but hey, we were happy to be riding in a bus where we could look out the window and see different things. And this bus would take these children to school, take them back home, and at night if we had a game, it would take us to the games. It was a good, I don't ever remember that bus tearing up, you know, leaving us stranded somewhere. So I say it was a good bus. When I got to Lakeland High, we still didn't have new books. We had hand-me-down books from the white school. But again, I said we were glad to get the books. In elementary school, we never had standardized tests. But once we got to the high school, we did have standardized tests, which was the basics, our basic skills. And I think that was the only one that we had. But anyway, I enjoyed my school years. And I finished 12th grade. Well, let me back up again. When I got to the 11th grade, children were finishing school in the 11th grade here in Lakeland. That year, they decided to add the 12th grade on. So that meant my class had to go to school another year. So we were seniors for 2 years. So we made history because we were the first black class to graduate from the 12th grade in Lanier County.
Okay, awesome.
So after leaving, after finishing high school, I went on to college.
What year did you graduate? What year was that?
1953.
1953, okay.
So I went on to college. I went to Albany State, and I finished Albany State, and then I came back to Lakeland. And I applied for jobs in different counties. And finally, I got a job here in Lakeland.
Okay.
So I taught here for 9 years, but the funniest thing about it, some of the children here was in school with me, you know, when I was in high school. So they decided we ain't gonna call her no Miss Oxford, you know. And it took some time for the principal to get them to realize that I wasn't a student anymore. I was on the faculty. So that worked out. When I got back, there was a brand new school. We had a brick school with all the modern equipment in it. Finally, we had bathrooms in the school. We had heat in the schools. We had a cafeteria in the school. We had a media center. We had a business section where the children learned how to type. We had home economics department where the children learned to cook and sew. And there was also an ag department. So we had moved on up, you know, and we would, guess what? We were getting new books.
That's good.
And we had a lot of school buses at that time. So, you know, I can say we went from rag to riches. And I really, really enjoyed the teaching here. We had no problems with the children. Because if you had a problem with a child, all you had to do was call that parent. And the parent would come to the school. And the children didn't want the parent to come to the school. Because when they came, they didn't come alone. They had a little belt in their hand. And they would spank the children right there in front of the teacher and the children. So we didn't have the problem that they have today where you have students coming in bringing knives and guns and fighting the teachers and cursing the teachers out, you know, and all those things. And I really enjoyed working at Lanier County, Lakeland High in elementary school. We had a band at that school. We had a basketball team, and we had a band. They had their uniforms, they had their musical instruments, and we had one basketball game, which was homecoming. And we would have a parade downtown. Each class would do a float, and they would have their queens. And we would ride through, you know, the city of Atlanta and back to the school. I don't know what happened to all that material. We had a lot of trophies, but I don't know what happened to them after they integrated. I don't know whether they still have them at the school or not. But those are some keepsakes, you know, that we would like to have. But I really enjoyed going to school in Lanier County, and I enjoyed working with the children in Lanier County.
So did you have to call, for some of the children, did you have to call their parents a lot?
No, you just had a few that,
They didn't
was
want
going
to
to
listen.
act up, didn't want to listen. And we also had to go into the homes when we had children that wasn't doing what, we thought they should do. We had to go in the home, sit down and talk to the parents. And that helped a lot.
When you went to the home?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've never heard about that. I've never heard of a teacher going to a home.
We had to go. Yeah, so.
Well, let me ask a question about when you were in school. Did you have a teacher that particularly stood out to you? Because I know you said the teachers were very dedicated. Was there one in particular that stood out that was really an inspiration?
Yes. Her name was Artie Williams.
Artie Williams.
Mm-hmm. She taught me in the 11th and 12th grade.
And what was so special about her?
I don't know, she was a dedicated teacher. She would, she would help the children that she thought wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. She showed you love, and she was just a sweet person. And she's still living today. And we have a teacher that taught at St. Louis before my time. She's in her late 90s, and she's still living.
Oh my goodness.
Miss Brannon, she's still living, and we have a reunion, a school reunion from the Lakeland High Elementary School. Every 2 years, Miss Brannon had Miss One. And the last one we had, she was out there doing the lion dance at 90-some years old. But we had very dedicated teachers, they saw that we learned. Now everybody didn't learn, there were some students that didn't. But most of us, we learned. And I was, I guess, the first black, well, I wasn't the first black girl that went off to college, because we had Miss Bessie Mosley that went off to college and Miss Johnny Moulton. But they went for 2 years, and then they started teaching. And then they would go back during the summer and work on their degree. But I went straight through and got my BS degree. So I was the first black girl, to go through 4 years and come back and teach. But it was enjoyable.
Well, is there anything else, like from your school years or from your teaching years, that you feel is important for us to know, or that you just like to say?
Well, I just, I wish children would be more apt to learn these days than they are now, And I wish we could get the balance out of school, because we didn't have that when I was coming up. And if we could get more parents to be more interested in their children, I think it would be better.